Hello everyone and welcome to the Binding of Isaac Rebirth rundown. The original Isaac, while addictive, was plagued with balance and technical problems. These problems only got worse with Wrath of the Lamb, so much so that Nicalis was brought on board to handle the remake of the game from a technical standpoint. Rather than outright review the game, I just plan to cover the changes implemented in this new version of the game since it's still the same game as it was before, just, better. The big question fans are probably asking is, how does this remake perform? I've always been a fan of Nicalis since they know exactly how to program a game, and with Rebirth they certainly keep their gold standard of coding. Right out of the gate, the game played at a beautiful 60 frames per second, and only dipped when I went totally nuts and watched 2 other streams at the same time. The game only used 20% of my CPU power and about 100,000 kilobytes of RAM. With such a low profile, I'm pretty sure even cell phones can run this game now. The options menu is roughly the same as the old game. However, Rebirth has actual gamepad support with controllers with X input, and you can rebind controls for both inputs as well. Resolutions are a bit odd, however. You can only have a small window to play the game in or full screen mode, and stretching the windowed mode is somewhat imprecise. Compared to the sloppy engine of the original game, Rebirth is far better than the original in almost every regard. The gameplay changes for Binding of Isaac are also radical in nature. Now that Rebirth runs at an elegant frame rate, Team Meat and Nicalis took full advantage of this and went nuts with level design. There are more rooms, more decorations in said rooms, the rooms can be bigger, and there are bigger varieties of enemies as well. This changes a fair bit of things since there are more threats to deal with now, but players don't have the mad slowdown from the original game to process the situation. It all feels very refreshing and very much like the Isaac experience people have dreamed about when playing the original. Rebirth also comes with some slight character balances as well. For one, Cain got nerfed pretty hard. The Lucky Foot no longer manipulates pills as drastically as before, so now he starts with somewhat of a handicap rather than being all-powerful. Samson is also much more viable now. He starts with more max health and Bloodlust now stays throughout the entire floor, but it builds up from taking damage rather than dealing damage. The new characters in Rebirth are a demon with flight and a short-range brimstone laser, and a character that starts with a 1-up but gets a damage trail upon losing that extra life. A plethora of new items have also been added as well, and while I haven't fully explored everything, all the new items have added some goofy new way to play the game. Item synergies also exist between use items and power-ups, allowing for some comically overpowered situations if the player is lucky enough. The Polaroid system for the endgame has been somewhat retooled in this game to make trinkets much more viable at the end, and a new map has been created with this logic in mind as well. New enemy types and bosses have also been introduced, which keeps things refreshing as well since veterans are probably sick of seeing the same spiders and laser torsos from the first game. Simply put, the Rebirth of Binding of Isaac is better in almost every way from both a gameplay and a game engine standpoint. Nicalis did an amazing job coding the engine, and the new elements added to the game are enough to revitalize the Binding of Isaac experience. If you're new to Binding of Isaac, you really have no reason to buy the original game anymore with this new re-release out since it outshines the old game in almost every fashion. For any veterans out there still on the fence, this remake really does fix every issue the old game had and then some. Rebirth is truly the Binding of Isaac experience players have been waiting years for.